Hello and welcome back to the Commonwealth, everybody. Today we're going to be taking a look at another pipe weapon in Fallout 4. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Pipe Revolver, which is honestly my favorite of the pipe weapons. I think it actually looks the best out of the pipe weapons. That's not a high bar by any means, but it is probably the best of the pipe weapons. And it looks like it could potentially function, which, I mean, is more than what I would say about the other pipe weapons. I guess the syringer would function just fine, too. I think that one's okay. But the pipe bolt action and the pipe gun, I'm pretty sure would get destroyed instantly. This one might break very fast, but I could see it at least working a couple of times. Pipe Revolver is generally an early game weapon that you can find just like all the pipe weapons. This one comes in 45, which is one of the more common rounds that you can find throughout the wasteland, so that is pretty nice, and you can find a decent amount of it early on. Vendors also tend to sell a lot of this, and this gun can be found on all sorts of enemies. You're probably most likely going to find this on like raiders. They tend to carry around a lot of pipe weapons. So the Pipe Revolver for stats does 24 damage per shot, which is actually pretty decent for the early game. This has 14 damage per second. It doesn't shoot very fast. This is a single action only revolver, which is fine. I actually don't mind that at all about this weapon. This has a range of 83 by default, which is pretty far for a handgun. That's actually pretty nice. This one has 61 accuracy, which is also not bad for a handgun in the early game. You can, of course, mod this out quite a bit, so that does help. This costs 35 action points to be using in V.A.T.S, which is okay. Holds 6 shots like a standard revolver, and weighs 4.2 weight, which is kind of heavy, but I could see a pipe weapon weighing that. At least if it was made from steel pipes and not from the copper pipes that it seems to be made out of in this game. For the pros of the Pipe Revolver, this one is an early game weapon, which is nice. You can actually collect these, and sometimes you can get mods for them, which can be pretty good. The damage is decent on these, and it has a very common ammo. 45s are pretty easy to find, and it's also easier if you're just picking up the enemy's weapons. Like if you decide to rush the story and you go through the vault with the guys with the Tommy guns, you can pick those up and get quite a lot of ammo from it. So if you're using the Pipe Revolver there, it works just fine. Major con to this weapon is that it does have a slow rate of fire. It's also going to fall off later compared to other weapons that use the same ammo type as it. For the perks that you want to take with the Pipe Revolver, either go with Gunslinger if you intend on using this as a pistol, or go with Rifleman if you intend on using this as a rifle. Since this is a pipe weapon, it can be modded to either of those. For an overall rating for the Pipe Revolver, I'd probably put this one on the very high end of D tier. It's still not a great weapon, but it's not a terrible weapon either, and if you find these early enough, especially if you get legendary ones, they can be pretty decent. I think in my most recent run, I ended up getting like a Hitman version of this right away, so it was actually not bad. Now let's talk about a modded version of the Pipe Revolver and what type of mods I would like to put on it and rank it from there. So for the receiver, you have quite a few options here. If you'd like to keep it in 45, then you want to be going with the calibrated powerful receiver, because that one's just the best receiver that you could put on here. But if you want the most amount of damage, then you're going to want to swap this over to the 308. Now, there is kind of problems, at least with the ammos that this one can use, because it doesn't use any of them super effectively compared to other weapons. For the 38 receiver that you can put on this, the other pipe gun is kind of better because it can just be full auto, and that's just going to be a better use of the ammo that's that common. Although if you want good damage per shot, I guess you could go with the Pipe Revolver chambered in 38. For 45 rounds, the combat rifle is just kind of better than it at everything, so you'd more likely just use that, assuming that you're not just going with an only pistols build, in which case then this one could be okay. And the 308 receiver is also beat out by something like the combat rifle, just because that does more damage, or things like the hunting rifle, which do more damage per shot. But if you want the most amount of damage out of this, go with the 308 receiver, because that is the strongest version of it. If you're going with a pistol-only build, though, then I believe this is the only pistol that can use 308 rounds, which is bizarre for several reasons, but that would be the strongest option for the Pipe Revolver, so go with that one. For barrels, I would recommend either the long light barrel if you want to turn this into a rifle. I find that that one doesn't look that bad, and it kind of gives me all the bonuses I would like, as well as it doesn't weigh me down. Or you can go with the short ported barrel if you're going to go with this as a pistol. You could even go with the snub barrel, because I don't really mind the short barrel or the snub barrel for the revolver. At least it looks kind of okay. Yes, it would be very bizarre to have a snub-nosed revolver chambered in 308 of all things. For a stock, either go with the recoil compensating stock if you're going to go into a rifle, or go with a sharpshooter's grip if you're going to go with a pistol. Just depends on which one of those you enjoy. The build I'm using is a rifle version of the Pipe Revolver, but you can make it into a pistol too and it would work just fine. For sights, go with whatever sight you would like. I personally like the glow sights on these, but if you want to go with any of the scopes, you can put that on there. Technically, scopes will get you the most amount of damage if you have the magazine, but I don't really like throwing scopes onto this particular weapon, so I'll just usually use something like the glow sights, which make it a little bit easier to shoot. For a muzzle, you can kind of go with anything for a muzzle. Suppressor is technically the best if you have the operator's perk, because that just gets you more damage. But the other options aren't bad either. If you want to bash, go with either the small or the large bayonet. And if you don't like those, then the compensator and the muzzle brake are decent too. All of these can upgrade the Pipe Revolver. And for an overall rating for the modded Pipe Revolver, I would probably knock this up a tier. So I would go up to C tier. It's decent. It's still not the greatest because of the different ammos. And if you're just comparing the ammo to other weapons, there's no real reason to be using the Pipe Revolver when you can just get a combat rifle and load it to 308 and you just have a gun that has better damage, better range, has a larger magazine, has a really good legendary counterpart to it. So you kind of got everything that you would want in that. If you're going with a pistol-only build and you're using it with the 308 rounds, I guess it is technically the best of those guns because it's pretty much the only gun. So it does kind of have a niche there, but that's about the only place where it's decent. There is also no unique version of the Pipe Revolver, just like there's no unique version of any of the pipe weapons, but you can still find legendary effects on them. So if you can get this one with a decent effect like instigating or two-shot or maybe unlimited capacity or something like that, it can be pretty decent. Tell me your thoughts on the Pipe Revolver though. I would love to hear them. Do you guys enjoy this weapon? This one did win the poll for which pipe weapon do people enjoy the most. This one won it by quite a lot, which is understandable. This at least looks usable, and it looks like it could potentially function. Thank you guys so very much for watching this. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.